Hello. Hi guys. I hope the audio is coming fine. Today we start the 8th chapter of the Manusmriti written by Raja Manu, a Kshatriya. And this 8th chapter, the Atha Ashtamodhyaya, is about the science of government, the lawsuits. And for those who haven't seen yesterday's live stream, in yesterday's live stream we discussed Raj Dharma. And Raj Dharma and Arthashastra has a lot of overlaps because Arthashastra is essentially about Raj Dharma only. So what we learned yesterday from the Raj Dharma chapter is that Hindu economics and finance, knowledge of finance, financial markets is very much at par. There's always, they speak of a need for bureaucracy, at the same time not worshipping the bureaucracy and fully acknowledging the fact that, acknowledging the possibility that bureaucracy might be very corrupt, bureaucrats might be very corrupt. In fact, I have said this repeatedly. Chanakya has said at one point that just like you'll never understand when does a fish end up drinking water, you'll never know when does a bureaucrat end up stealing money. In the same way, yesterday we learned in the Raj Dharma chapter, it was casually mentioned that bureaucrats in general become corrupt. It was not even said as a possibility that sometimes some bureaucrats become corrupt. It was casually mentioned that bureaucrats in general become corrupt. So that was fun. But the most beautiful part of yesterday's chapter was that, which was also mentioned in Arthashastra by Kautilya himself, that which sets apart Hindu civilization from Abrahamic civilizations in general, and perhaps some other Latin American and African pre-Abrahamic civilizations as well, but I don't know much about them, is that when a king annexes, invades or conquers another kingdom, the first and foremost duty of that victorious king is to learn the customs of that nation, of that new kingdom, and join in the processions of and celebrations of the customs and cultures of that new kingdom, and absolutely not harm the population. Because otherwise, why are you even conquering the place? Just for land? You want a blank piece of land where everyone's dead, where there's no one to till your land and grow agriculture, there's no one to run things. What's the point of such annexation? That's obviously too intelligent of a statement, which does not get into the minds of Middle Eastern barbaric kings, but that was the common sense out of which Hindu kings operated. So let's see what we learned today in the science of government, the lawsuits. Today is also a pretty huge chapter. I think it will take about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to finish this, but I'll go as fast as possible. And let's see who all have joined. Abhay Agarwal is saying Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. Rohan, Jai Ma Durga. Okay, we are going to invoke all the gods, as many as possible. Nice. Play with Pranav is saying Maku dada jiggesh korche BJP ki koreche eto bochore. Yeah, show him the GDP graph, ask him why Dubai airport is accepting Indian currency, ask him all those things. Acha, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. Sabko Ram Ram, Sabko Ram Ram. Hi Aniket, long time no see. Okay, so the lawsuits. The king shall enter his court assembly dressed in his dignified costume and accompanied with the Brahmanas, that is, the masters of the science of justice, Nyaya Shastra, and with those who are learned in the law of the land, and with the councillors of the appropriate departments of the state to investigate the law cases. There, that is, at the court, the king, well dressed in his majestic costume and properly seated on the seat of justice, or even standing, shall start the business of the court by raising his right hand. He shall examine the cases and hear those who brought the lawsuits before the court. The king or the masters of justice shall daily decide the lawsuits one by one in conformity with the local usages and conventions, and according to the laws laid down in the scriptures regarding the following 18 sources of disputes. Let's see what are they. Here, the 18 sources of disputes are: 1. Non-payment of debt, koi paisa leke bhag gaya. Non-refund of deposit and pledge. Sale of the property of someone else by another person, which sounds like Waqf board. Fraud among partners and no return of gifts. Non-payment of reduction of wages. Non-payment or reduction of wages. Okay, see, reduction of wages was also banned. Nice. But since there was not much inflation in those days, no one, if someone was actually reducing wages, people would actually find out, अरे कल तक 40 रुपए देता था, आज अचानक 30 रुपए बना दिया salary. But today, because of inflation, you won't even know that your salary is going down. The non-performance of an agreement, disputes on sales and purchases of goods, disputes regarding cattle between owners and his servants, disputes about boundaries, assault, use of abusive language, theft, violence, adultery, disputes regarding the duties of the husband and the wife, division of inheritance, and 18, gambling and betting. In these matters of disputes brought before the court of law by the people, he, the king, shall adjudicate the lawsuits in conformity with the sacred law, and he shall be impartial in all matters. But when the king cannot himself personally attend the law court to adjudicate the lawsuits, then he shall appoint learned brahmanas, that is, those who are learned in the laws, to try the law cases. He, the appointed judge, shall first enter the court of justice with the 3 other jurors and examine these lawsuits either seated or standing. That assembly where sit the 3 brahmanas well versed in the Vedas and 1 learned judge appointed by the king is called a Brahma assembly, the court of justice. There, let's see what's the Sanskrit version of this phrase. Yasmin deshe, at the assembly, Nishidanti, sit, Traya, 3, Veda Vidha plus Vipra, brahmanas learned in the Vedas, Adhikrita, appointed, Rajna, by the king, Cha means and, Vidwan means erudite, Tam, that is, Brahman Sabham, Brahma assembly, Brahman Sabham. So there in that assembly where justice is wounded before the very eyes of its members, and if the dart is not extracted, that is, if the injustice is not cured, there all the members at the assembly are themselves wounded by the dart of injustice. Nice analogy here. It is right for a man not to enter a tribunal, or if he enters, he shall speak nothing but the truth, and in the assembly, even if he remains silent while justice is being destroyed by injustice, or if he speaks falsehood, he becomes guilty of sin. At the assembly or at the court of law where justice is killed by injustice and truth is destroyed by falsehood before the very eyes of the members, that is the judges, while they look on, they shall be indeed considered dead. Dharma, that is justice violated, indeed destroys the one who violates it, and justice preserved surely protects the one who protects it. Therefore, justice must not be violated, otherwise violated justice will destroy us. Dharma, or justice, is the giver of prosperity and showerer of happiness, and he who does its violation, that man is considered to be Shudra by the Devas, that is, the learned and pious persons. Hence, Dharma should not be violated. Indeed, Dharma is the only one friend that follows men even after death, whereas all else goes to the same state like the body which perishes at the time of death. At the assembly, where an injustice has been done, 1/4 of the guilt goes to the one who committed it, 1/4 to the witness, जो कि देख रहा था injustice, 1/4 to all the members of the tribunal, and 1/4 to the king, that is, to everyone who is responsible to properly administer justice. They all are responsible for correcting this injustice that happened. They are all equally guilty of sin, which means until that injustice is corrected. Interesting. In the assembly where the crime is rightly condemned, there the guilt goes to the perpetrator, and the king and the members of the tribunal become free, that is, they are saved from the guilt of injustice. The judge shall ascertain the internal disposition of men during the trial process by the external signs, like the tone of their voice, by their appearance, motions, and by the movement of their eyes and their bodily gestures. The internal mind of men is comprehended by the observation of their look, their movements, their gait, their walking style, their gestures, their speech, and by the changes in the expressions of their eyes and their voice. The king shall protect, that is, take into his custody the inherited paternal property and other valuable belongings of an orphan child until he has completed his studies and has become a scholar, or until he has passed his minor age. The king, that is, the state, shall protect the properties of the barren women and of those who have no sons, and also of the extinct families. Protection shall also be given to the properties of the married ladies in the absence of their husbands, who may have gone out for longer periods due to work or any other emergency, and to the properties of the widows, protection to the properties of the widows and of those women who are afflicted with diseases until they recover and are capable to manage their affairs. The virtuous king must teach a lesson, that is, shall punish those close relatives who try to rob and appropriate the property of those women, and the punishment to be meted out to them shall be of the same weight which is given to the thieves. Did you hear this? The virtuous king must teach a lesson, punish those close relatives who try to rob and appropriate the property of those women whose husbands have gone to some business venture for a long time, or who are handicapped, or who are injured for the time being. And the punishment to be meted out to them shall be of the same weight which is given to the thieves. Let me mark this as another pro-women example of Manusmriti. Okay, let me check some comments here. Ravya Amin, Abhay Agarwal, Kantara must be very close to you. WTSB, Telegram, Naiba Dilan. The Discord server to khulti pan. We have a Discord server. Anjuli. Rohan, Dada, what is your opinion about Mamta's comments? Muslims should pray to Allah and destroy Hindu rioters in Bengal. When did she say this now? Yeah, if she has said this, she has gone nuts, or she has understood how to address her target audience properly. She's focusing on her target audience. She should have been a marketing manager for some artists. The king shall cause the property whose owner is not known to be taken into custody. Okay, the king shall cause the property whose owner is not known to be taken into custody as a deposit for 3 years. However, if the owner appears before 3 years, then he shall claim his property. Otherwise, after the 3 years, the king shall take over the property. He who says that this is mine must be examined according to the rule. If he accurately describes the shape, number, etc. of the articles, and it is proved that he is the owner, then deserves to receive the articles or the property. But if a person who claims that a lost article belongs to him, and he fails to correctly describe the place, the time, the color, the shape, and the measure of the article, if found guilty of telling lies, then he deserves a fine equal in value of the object claimed, which is what some people want when people are accused falsely of rape and molestation. People have made the case that those women who accused a man of falsely raping or molesting them, those women should get the same punishment as an actual molester or rapist. Now, if the lost article has been found, the king shall take 1/6, 1/10, or even 1/12 of its value, remembering the duty of the good men, that is according to the law. Articles or property lost and afterwards found shall be placed in secure custody and guarded by the appointed officials, and if from there, that is from their custody, they are stolen by the thieves, or even by the officials, okay, see, it's always taken into account that bureaucrats, government employees might be thieves. So even if they are stolen by the officials, then the king shall cause those found guilty of theft to be trampled by an elephant. Yeah. Let me mark this as punishment for stealing. Gigantic punishment. Shavya is saying, why hasn't the central government taken any action against her in this hate speech and inciting communal violence? Yeah, the central government can't if she has actually said this, central government can't take action against this. Some lawyers will have to pursue this in court as a matter of hate speech. Excuse me. Excuse me. Rakesh is saying, Bada Kolkata na Pakistan. Some guy was just debating with me in Instagram, saying that I said that Satyajit Ray was so atheist and so neutral that he picked Devi to critique and criticize dogmatism. So and he did not critique the dogmatism which kicked out Bangals out of Bangladesh. So some guy replies to me that even Bengalis were kicked out of India. So I said, if Bengalis were kicked out of India, how did Satyajit Ray remain back in Kolkata? Then he says, no, Bengalis were kicked out of both sides. So I said, no, Bengalis comprises the whole race and Bangals are a particular portion with whom I'm talking about. And why did then Sir Syed Ahmed Khan always talk about Bengalis and Muslims as separate entities? Then I asked him to look up in his WhatsApp university. Yes, BJP leaders are all clown in Bengal majorly. Okay. And also Shravya, other than that, for the violence and all, central government can't do anything because it will be always taken up to the Supreme Court that why central government meddling in state government's affairs, and then maybe our Chandrachuda will kick the petition out, and then the real violence will unfold in Bengal, where they will say that, see, you meddled with our affairs, now you are officially told by the Supreme Court to not meddle in our affairs, now see what we do, let the real khela begin now. And besides, I think Narendra Modi has some PTSD from his Gujarat riot days also, because he thinks that, yeah, even I had screwed up a bit of riots, so maybe Mamta is also screwing things up. Let's not meddle with her actions. Let's just see where this goes. And the end game is obviously AFSPA. Partition won't happen because now even the Middle Eastern colonizer bros know that Bangladesh, Pakistan bana ke kuch nahi hoga. Khatiya khada ho jayega. So let's stay in India and let's have a nice fairy tale land of our own. So partition is off the table, but AFSPA seems to be on the table. Let's see where it goes. Okay. The man who truly thus says that this is mine, who जिसका सचमुच का वो article है, वो property है, in respect of any treasure found, the king shall take 1/6 or even 1/12 of its value. But he who makes a false claim on any treasure which has been found, he shall be punished to pay a fine equal to 1/8 of the value of the treasure which he claims to be his, or he shall be fined a smaller amount on the computed value of the treasure. Bahut maths. Those men who faithfully discharge their duties and are always engaged in the performance of their own duties become a dear to the world, though they may be living far in remote places. Yeah. Neither the king himself nor any of the officials shall begin any dispute, nor shall institute a false case, and shall never try to grab any article found and brought before the court by someone else. Just as a hunter traces the footprints of the deer by following the drops of blood on the ground, in the same way, the king or the judge shall by inferences from facts discover the truth about a lawsuit. Okay, inferences I think is one of the pramanas one of the kinds of pramanas in the Pramana Shastra. Let me see if I can remember. Inference, yes, it's Anumana. Anuman is a part of Pramana Shastra. Okay, let's see if that is in the translation, okay? Yeah, Anumanena, by inferences, yes. Thank God I'm remembering some words of Sanskrit now. Okay, the king or the judge who is engaged in judicial proceedings shall pay attention to the truth and the legal aspect of the lawsuit, and shall also hear his inner conscience and the testimonies of the witness, and he shall also consider the place, the aspect, and the time factor. When a creditor brings a lawsuit before the king regarding the non-payment of a loan, and if the debt has been proved by evidence, the king shall cause to recover the money from debtor and pay it over to the creditor. But if the debtor does not admit the debt, and if the debt is proven by any document or by the testimony of the witness, then the king, that is the court, shall order the debtor to pay the amount to the creditor and shall also impose a small fine upon him, considering his financial capacity. On the denial of the debtor to pay back the debt to the creditor, even though the court has ordered him, if the court has ordered the debtor to pay back the debt and even then he is not paying it back, then the complainant shall call a witness who was present when the loan was made, or he shall present another evidence in the court. Now, one clarification needs to be made here, that why I'm reading these sections and these texts in general is because first and foremost to get the wisdom. But these portions are not about wisdom, right? They just show what were the laws of those days. So I don't have to argue that each and every law has to be applicable today. So today, judge them by their hand gestures and stuff. No, we have much better equipments and technology now. But what these texts prove is how elaborate and well structured our system was, how developed the civilization was. That's all we are getting as proof from these ancient texts. Okay. RSB is saying Rohan Chatra Bengali Babus are the biggest clowns. Yes, Calcutta presidency. Okay, Rohan Chatra is saying Satyajit Ray was not religious Hindu, but he was still very Hindu. His work is a proof of it. At least he used to call a spade when society was backward very much. Yes, he used to call a spade when that spade belonged to Hindus. Otherwise, no spade. So yeah, he should get credit for calling out the flaws of Hindus. Everyone should call out all flaws, but remember that he was partial to just one religion. Okay, he who produces a false witness or has made false statements or allegations and retracts afterwards, or does not understand that that his later allegations contradicts his former ones, that is, his statements are confusing and inconsistent. And he who tries to amend a former duly given statement, and when being asked by the court he cannot give the right explanation and does not abide by his statement, and he who secretly converses with the witnesses in an improper place, witness tampering jisko bolte hain hum, and does not like to answer the questions asked by the court or talks irrelevantly and even leaves the court, and when ordered by the court to answer he does not answer and fails to prove his allegations or claims, or does not know his former and later statements, therefore he shall lose his claim, because he is absolutely speaking incoherently. Okay. That plaintiff who thus says that I have witnesses, but when ordered by the judge to produce the witnesses in court, he fails to do so, then on this ground the judge shall declare the case to be non-suited. If a plaintiff does not speak, that is, does not produce evidences in court, then according to law he is liable to punishment or a fine. Similarly, if a defendant does not plead within 3 fortnights, then he has lost his case. If a plaintiff who has filed a lawsuit conceals the exact amount he has given, or if the defendant falsely declares the whole amount received, then the two men offending justice shall be punished by the king and fined to pay twice the amount involved. A debtor who denies that he has contracted a loan, and when brought to justice by the creditor, then the latter shall depose before the Brahmana, that is, the judge appointed by the king, in the presence of 3 witnesses, and the debtor is to be convicted of his falsehood. Now I shall fully declare what kind of persons the creditors shall call as witnesses, and the manner in which those witnesses shall depone in court, and the form of true testimony they shall give. In lawsuits, the pious and trustworthy men of all the 4 varnas, who fully know their duty and are free from greed, may be made witnesses, but those of the opposite character shall be avoided. From all 4 varnas, remember? Those persons who have an interest in the financial deal with the parties shall not be made witness, because this is what's that term called in legalese? That I can't remember the term, but this is actually done even today. Those persons who have an interest in the financial deal with the parties shall not be made witness, because that person has a vested interest in the outcome of the decision, so that person cannot be witnessed. Neither the friends and relations, nor the servants and the dependents, nor the enemies, and also those who have been already convicted by the court. Equally, those suffering from severe illness and those who are known to bear false witness shall not be made witnesses. Okay. Okay, Rohan is saying, Dada, of course you have to understand the time period when he was making films. Obviously, he was influenced by communists. He was influenced by communists and in general European rational thinking as well, but he was a pretty obvious staunch Congress supporter as well, because he used to read Anandabazar Potrika as a second Veda, 5th Veda, and also he has shown that characteristic in Feluda as well, because it has been mentioned, I think, in Hottapuri only, that Feluda doesn't read anything other than Anandabazar Potrika, and Anandabazar Potrika is notoriously pro-Congress, and then later they became pro-Trinamool. Anandabazar has never moved away from Congress, which is why CPM always had a hard time winning seats in Kolkata, because the intellectuals, either they were Congress or they were far left, further left of CPIM, and they were all Anandabazar Putrika readers, and Anandabazar had always been anti-communist. Okay, women shall give evidence for the women, the dvijas for the dvijas of the same kind, the virtuous shudras for the shudras, and those of the low class for the members of their class shall be made to give evidence as witnesses. But any person who has knowledge of the crime may be made witness to give evidence for the parties for crimes committed inside a house or in the forest, and also for cases of injury to the body or the loss of life. In all cases of violence, theft, verbal abuse, and defamation, assault, the witnesses shall not be examined too strictly. They shall be regarded to be trustworthy because these acts are mostly committed secretly. What a beautiful nuance here. Nuance in even adjudication of laws and punishment. Listen to this. In cases of violent offences, violence, theft, verbal abuse, defamation, assault, the witnesses shall not be examined too strictly. They shall be regarded to be trustworthy because these acts are mostly committed secretly. In cases of conflict between two parties, if both parties present witnesses, the king or the judge shall accept the evidences given by the majority of the witnesses. But if the number of witnesses of both parties are equal in number, then the evidences given by those who are distinguished by good qualities shall be admitted. And where the witnesses are all distinguished by their good qualities, then the evidences given by those who are the best among the dvijas shall be accepted. Okay, and also Rohan, remember that Satyajit Ray was a lifelong ardent Rabindranath fan, right? So he never made out maybe read or propagated the portions pointed out by Rabindranath against our Middle Eastern homies. Why is that? Either he did not read those portions, or he was just another Bengali who was reading only the secular humanist sections of Rabindranath's works. So why let him off the hook? Play with Pranub. Now my Maku Dada is abusing Savarkar. Oh yeah, सावरकर को गाली देने का टॉपिक क्या है? वो लेटर दिया मुचले का, इसलिए. So yeah, so ask him who did not give a letter, and why should not someone come out of the jail? People should remain in the jail forever. And he even asked for others to be freed. And that was basically the letter writing format for which people blame Savarkar. I have an audio recording of Raja Ram Mohan Roy's letter to Macaulay. Okay, read that out to him. Make him listen to that. See the tone of his letter, Raja Ram Mohan Roy's letter. You will feel like puking. And even Gandhi has written countless times, your humble servant, your humble servant. Everyone, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, Sir Syed Amir Ali, everyone used to write that way. That was the basic letter writing format. वैसे नहीं लेटर लिखा तो फेंक देगा लेटर, क्या करे? বলছে নেতাজি ভগৎ সিং কেউ দেয়নি. Yes, and how did they honor them? So everyone should die at 20. Nice, great idea. And why did Savarkar's elder brother get stoned to death? Ask him that. And what was Savarkar's life until he gave that letter? There's only letter. Only we are supposed to judge a man only by giving a letter. And after 14-12 years of torture, and when other people were having fun playing badminton in Naini prison, in people who went to Naini prison did not even have to give letters. ऐसे जेल में भेजा उनको. And if his case is that Bhagat Singh and Netaji are greater than Savarkar, so be it. There can always be a ranking and hierarchy. Everyone does not have to be the best. Okay, best spot is reserved for some people. Who's arguing that Savarkar has to be considered above Bhagat Singh and Netaji? Let him consider Savarkar lower than Bhagat Singh and Netaji. तो भगत सिंह और नेताजी के नीचे हुआ तो इसका मतलब उसका अस्तित्व खत्म क्या? ऐसा क्या लॉजिक हो सकता है? RSS propaganda, yeah, RSS propaganda. If it's truth, then what's the problem with that propaganda? If this is RSS propaganda, that's commie propaganda. So what's the problem with this? If we are just going to listen to both sides propaganda only, so let's keep up with our propaganda. Okay, where were we? Okay, in cases of conflict between two parties, if both parties present witnesses, the king or the judge shall accept the evidences given by the majority of the witnesses. Oh, that's the jury system of USA. But if the number of witnesses of both parties are equal in number, so it's not exactly jury system, but multiple people are being taken into account. But if the number of witnesses of both parties are equal in number, then the evidences given by those who are distinguished by good qualities shall be admitted. And where the witnesses are all distinguished by their good qualities, then the evidences given by those who are the best among the divijas shall be accepted. See, one repeating motive here in all the cases of how law is to be administered. A great amount of priority is put on the personal character of a person, which is a lot in decline today, right? We trust anything said by anyone. Their personal life can be any absolute joke, but we take everyone seriously just because they have a blue tick on Twitter. A person who has actually witnessed a fact which can be seen and also has heard a fact which can be heard is admissible as a witness. And where the witness speaks the truth, he does not lose his dharma and wealth. However, where a witness tells lies, he shall be liable to a fine. In the court or in the assembly of Aryas, that is honorable men, if a witness depones anything else and not what he has seen or heard, then he gets in this life the pain of losing his tongue. And after death, that is in the life hereafter, he is deprived of beatitude. I forgot what's the meaning of beatitude. Let me check in Google. Beatitude matlab kya hai? Beatitude. Beatitude means supreme blessedness. अच्छा, सब blessings खत्म हो जाएगा. Where a person is not even called as a witness, and if he is asked by the judge, there he must declare the facts exactly as he has seen or heard. What a witness declares quite naturally and spontaneously in a court, that must be received as an evidence. And whatever he says otherwise through fear, inducement or persuasion, that must be rejected as being worthless for the sake of justice. The judge or the barrister shall examine calmly the witnesses called to depone in court in the presence of the plaintiff and the defendant in the following manner. O witness, okay, now exact manual दे दिया गया है कि कैसे वो procedure होगा. Okay, see, all independence movement personalities had flaws. Yes, all independence movement personalities had flaws, and उसके बाद भी जो जिनको independence लड़ना भी नहीं पड़ा, उन लोगों ने क्या उखाड़ लिया? Flaws किस में नहीं होगा? Play with Pranav is saying, actually I'm wrong. আমার convince করতে যাওয়াই উচিত হয়নি. কি করে এদের চেঞ্জ করব বুঝতে পারি না. এমনিতে ভালো দাদাটা. Yeah, no. You did the right thing. You have to convince them. Otherwise, what's left? Only if you don't even do this, the only thing left is street fight. So better do this. Parakram Divya is saying nothing wrong in that. That's why I consider civilizational priorities as more important to the national identity. Few of them are Adi Shankaracharya, Tyagaraja, Tulsidas, Chaitanya. Advan Satra is saying Bartaman newspaper is very communist in ideology, yet Bengalis still read Anandabazar and Bartaman still today. Bartaman was heavily Trinamool supporting. When did they become communist? Their caption that Bhagavan chhara kauke bhoy kore na was intended at communists, that see, we don't fear you, we fear only God. Okay. So now the procedure for the trial. O witness, whatever you know about the dealings between the two parties, declare all truthfully, because here your evidence is necessary for the decision of the case. The witness who speaks the truth in his deposition attains after death the exalted worlds, the heaven, etc., that is born in favorable happy regions, and here in this life gets excellent fame, because that testimony is respected by the Veda. A witness is purified by truthfulness in his words, and it is through truthfulness that dharma grows, that is, the level of piety raises. Therefore, all witnesses of all varnas shall only speak the truth. The soul itself is the witness of the soul, and indeed it is the soul which is the refuge of the soul. O man, remember this, and never bring disgrace to your own self. Be the best witness of all men. Speak the truth. O man who desires prosperity, that which you believe in yourself, that I am alone, and thus you speak falsehood, bear in mind that the omniscient and omnipresent God ever resides in your heart, and He, the God, is the witness of all your virtuous acts and sins. Therefore, do not speak lies, do not commit sin. The Devas know not a better man than him who, when speaking, has indeed no distrust in his soul, that is, whose conscience does not prick him when he is deponing in a court of justice. In all lawsuits, where it is detected that false evidence has been given, the judge shall stay all proceedings, and even shall order that whatever decision has been taken shall be reversed, that is, shall be considered as not done. An evidence given by a witness through greed, infatuation, fear, friendship, lust, anger, and even through ignorance and childishness is declared to be false and therefore not valid. A witness who gives false evidence out of any of these motives or out of any other reasons, he speaks lies, that is, he gives false evidence for him. I shall now describe the particular punishments in due order for him, for the liars, for false evidences. Let's check out the comments once again. The TMC is itself a neo-communist party, so indirect way. Yeah. In that way, you are right. Bartaman is still very communist. Before TMC, during CPIM's time, Bartaman used to oppose Congress's socialism heavily because they were further left. I see. Okay. A witness who gives false evidence out of greed shall be punished to pay 1,000 pun, which was the currency of those days. 1,000 pun, but he who is found guilty of infatuation, he shall pay the lowest amount, and the fines to be paid by the witness for giving false evidence through fear shall be twice the lowest amount, and 4 times the lowest shall be the fine for the case where false evidence is given out of friendship. But for giving false evidence out of lust, the fine shall be 10 times the lowest, and if out of anger, it shall be 3 times the highest. If you give false evidence just because you are angry with a person, then your fine shall be 3 times the highest penalty. And for false evidence given out of ignorance, the fine shall be 200 pun. And it shall be only 100 pun if it is given by a witness out of childishness. Now here's a footnote given by the translator. 1 sahasam is 250 pun, madhya sahasam is 500 pun, and param sahasam is 1000 pun. Purvam sahasam is the lowest. For details, refer to Vishuddha Manusmriti, page 394 and shloka 67 to 68. 394. Acha, abhi kuch der baad hi aayega. Let's see. Yeah, it will come in this chapter only. These fines have been prescribed by the wise man to punish the witnesses who give false evidence, and in order to prevent the failure of justice and to restrain injustice, I have declared to you. The king or the judge shall take cognizance of the motive behind the offense, the place and the time and the weight of the crime, and also the physical and pecuniary ability of the persons found guilty, and then he shall accordingly inflict the punishment. Any punishment inflicted on a person through injustice, that is, which is unlawful, destroys the reputation of the king or the judge and the judicial system in this world, and the fame otherwise should have been acquired, that is also demolished, and it also causes the loss of happiness even in the next world for the king and the judge. Therefore, unjust punishment is to be avoided. The king or the judge who does not punish the guilty but punishes the guiltless, that is, acquits the criminal and punishes the innocent, he receives great ill fame in this life and goes to hell after death, that is, he attains the world of sufferings in his next lives. Therefore, the guilty should unfailingly be punished and the innocent should never be punished. A person found guilty for the first time shall be given a warning, and if condemned again for a second time, he shall be censured harshly, and for a third time, he shall be punished to pay a fine, but if he is found guilty a fourth time, he shall receive corporal punishment. But when the king cannot restrain the criminals by corporal punishment, then he shall apply even all the 4 punishments altogether. Now I shall declare those measures and terms which are generally used among men on this earth as a medium of exchange, like pieces of copper, silver and gold, for the purposes of business transactions, that is, for buying and selling. That very small particle of dust which is seen in the sunbeam, which enters through lattice of the window, is called a trasarenu, and it is the first unit of measure. In the scale of measurement, know that 8 trasarenus are equal in weight to 1 liksha, and 3 likshas are equal to 1 rajarshapa, 1 grain, which is 1 grain of black mustard, and 3 of these are equal in measure to 1 Gaura sarshapa, 1 white grain of mustard, and 6 grains of white mustard are equal to 1 middle-sized barley corn, and 3 middle-sized barley corns are 1 ratti. 5 rattis are 1 masha, and 16 such mashas are 1 suvarna. And know that 4 suvarnas are equal to 1 pala, 10 palas are 1 dharana, and 2 rattis weighed together is to be considered as 1 ropya mashaka. And also know that 16 of those dharanam ropya mashaka make 1 silver purana or 1 coin of silver, and 1 karsha of copper, that is 16 masha of copper, is 1 pan. Okay, that was a breakdown of all the main currency. And know that 10 dharanis are considered 1 shatamana of silver. 10 dharanis are considered 1 shatamana of silver, but 4 suvarnas are considered as 1 nishka in the scale of measurement. It's impossible for me to remember these things. I'm just happy that these things existed. I'm just reading it in awe. 250 panas are declared the first, that is the lowest sahasa, and 500 as the mean sahasa, but 1000 pan are considered the highest sahasa. The moneylender shall take as monthly interest 1/8 part of 100 as interest on his capital, as prescribed by the master of pecuniary dealings. Okay, Binay Singh, Dada secular history को करेक्ट करने वालों को व्हाट्सएप यूनिवर्सिटी से ग्रेजुएट कहते हैं. सो यू आल्सो स्टार्ट कॉलिंग देम व्हाट्सएप यूनिवर्सिटी ग्रेजुएट्स. अब है Cisco lawsuit in California which led to resolution recognizing caste discrimination as oppression category has been judged as a false by their courts. Yes, yeah, it's hilarious that they even thought this will stick in American courts. American courts are huge on free speech, and there's already so much laws for discrimination. If you call someone something bad, you don't need a separate caste law for that. The creditor shall not charge interest on a loan for which an asset has been mortgaged by the debtor, for example, a house, a plot of land, cattle, etc., which is beneficial, that is, from which revenue accrues, and the asset shall neither be forfeited nor sold if it has been mortgaged for a long time. The creditor who has accepted a mortgaged property as a guarantee shall not use it, and if he uses it by force, that is, if he enjoys it, he shall remit the interest, or if it has been spoilt by its use, he shall satisfy the owner by paying its original price. Otherwise, the creditor shall be considered a thief, obviously. A mortgaged property or a deposit shall not be subject to any time limit and therefore lost. Both of these guarantees, though remained for a long time with the creditor, shall be recoverable. Things used with friendly and mutual consent, like the cow and the camel and the horse for conveyance or riding, or which are used for agricultural operations like the bullock, the ownership shall never be destroyed though they are used by someone else. In money transactions and loan taken at one time, the increase of interest shall not double the capital advanced, and on grains, fruits, wool, and beasts of burden, it shall not be more than 5 times the original amount or number. No, Dada, we shall call him Twitter University graduate. Binay Singh is saying actually UPSC and IAS teachers say this. So what? अरे WhatsApp यूनिवर्सिटी से ही पढ़ा है उनका, टीचर्स भी बोल दो, जो कुछ भी बोलो. हमारे पास स्पीच के सिवा कुछ नहीं है. स्ट्रीट फाइटिंग तो बंद है, ठीक है. टी राजा सिंह को भी निकाल देगा, नुपुर शर्मा भागेगा पूरा जिंदगी, अभी बंगाल में मुंह खोलोगे तो मार देगा. तो एटलीस्ट ये सब करो, इंसल्ट करो, और क्या छोड़ा है हमारे लिए. कोई यूपीएससी दिखे, डॉक्टर दिखे, साइंटिस्ट दिखे, किसी को मत छोड़ो, सबको बोलो तुम व्हाट्सएप यूनिवर्सिटी से हो. एनीवन हु डजंट अग्री विथ योर राइट विंग ओपिनियंस एंड इंडिक व्यूज एट दिस पॉइंट. The creditor shall not take interest for more than 1 year in a year, nor shall he claim interest on interest. That is, compound interest is prohibited. And he shall also not take interest in those forms like periodical interests, which are not stipulated in the document or the scriptures, or claim corporal interest, that is, through threat or violence. But he who is unable to discharge his debt at the due rate and still wishes to continue with the transaction, he shall have to pay the accrued interest on the loan, and then he shall make a new contract. If the debtor cannot pay the interest due at the right time, then indeed the accrued interest shall be added to the capital, in the initial capital, and a new contract shall be drawn up, and then the debtor shall pay that much interest as shall be due on the new amount. कितना याद रखना पड़ता था सोचो उन वक्त के ब्राह्मणों को, और फिर सैलरी वैलरी लेना भी मना है. He who has made a contract to add the interest due to the capital and therefore shall claim compound interest, he shall do so taking into consideration the place, the time, and the prevailing financial system in force. If he contravenes, then he shall not be entitled to such reward, that is the interest. That rate of interest or tax shall prevail in respect to the conveyance of goods by sea, where it shall be fixed by those who are professional in finance and expert in sea voyages, considering the place and the time of service. Okay, this was interesting. The rate of interest or tax shall prevail in respect to the conveyance of goods by sea, where it shall be fixed by those who are professional in finance and expert in sea voyages, considering the place and time of the service. The man who accepts to become a surety in a financial deal and agrees to present the debtor here, that is in court, if he fails to do so, then he shall have to pay the debt of the debtor from his own money. Any amount of surety money, money promised as gift to an unworthy recipient, money lost and due for gambling, and that which is unpaid for liquor, and any fine which should be paid to the state, the son is not bound to pay any of them. Okay, वो जिसका ड्यू है उसको ही पे करना होगा, उसका सन या डॉटर नहीं पे करेगा. Okay, Binay Singh is saying Dhruv Rathi, Deshbhakt or Mohak Mangal gets millions of views. Yeah, call them Thappadiyas, Habibiyas, etc. Yeah, I also call them Facebook University graduate. Yes, because until the time they are going on with legitimate debates, they are giving you counterpoints. You also keep giving them counterpoints with respect. If they call you names, then it does not matter what their age or their qualification or their profession is. Then you have to get down to calling them names. Instead of doing this, we should go for policy change. Policy change के लिए ये ground level पे mind change करना पहले ज़रूरी है, नहीं तो सब कुछ वो fascist ही लगेगा उनको. Okay, Rohan Chhatra is saying irony is Deshbhakt's ancestors are from East Bengal. Just ask him which community was responsible for his ancestors leaving their land. I know the answer. They will say দুপক্ষে দোষ ছিল, কিছু লোক ধর্ম নিয়ে রাজনীতি করে. Both people were to be blamed. Deshbhakt, Akash Banerjee is not going to utter a single word. Yeah, BJP is becoming Congress. Okay, I can't read your name in Hindi from here. This above monitor is very far off from my eyes, and I can't read Hindi much. So your name is probably Tak. No, I'm not sure. Right wing and left wing are different packaging of same goal ideology. Both wings are same goal, that's dictate people. Both are not Bharatiya ideas of politics, and both come from other countries. We should call Bharatiya wing or Dharmic wing. See, you can call yourself Dharmic wing, Indic wing, Bharatiya wing. I have no problem. I identify as Indic wing myself, but I think the Indic wing is the right wing, because because the right wing of no country is universally a right wing. So don't feel shy of the word right wing just because Hitler was a right winger. And in the same way, just because you wake up and go to the toilet and so does Karl Marx, that does not make you a Marxist. Okay, your right wing in India is the Indic wing. Don't be afraid of that word. Right wing in every country is relevant to the country's culture and national interest and ideologies of that particular country. Left wing is united for the entire country. Okay, right wing is divided. There can be no unity among right wingers of all over the world. We can only look after our best interests, and in India's best interest is Indic wing. Therefore, Indic wing is the right wing. It does not matter if the right wing term was invented outside India. Fallback identity saying Shama Sawant, who calls herself a Brahmin. Irony, must be sad. Who was Shama Sawant? I forgot. Shravya Amin is saying expert in sea voyages. Then since when did Hindus start fearing that traveling though through sea may make them lose their caste? Okay, I have heard two opinions on this, and I don't know which one is right. Rajiv Malhotra and Abhijit Chavda have said that people stopped and Brahmins asked people not to go and cross the Kalapani because when they were away and when they returned for after months and months, they saw that Islamic invaders had taken over their families, their land, everything, converted, killed, raped them, their families, etc. That's why Brahmanas started saying that no, don't even go for merchant, go for being a sea merchant, etc. Sanjeev Sanyal says that the time was much earlier. Even before that, they stopped doing that. They started preventing people from crossing the Kalapani. So he says we don't know exactly why they did that. But I think Sanjeev Sanyal is wrong on this, because the time actually coincides with Islamic invasions. But we shall probably never know for sure. Just keep finding out as many opinions you can on this. Rohan Shatra is saying his name is Tanmay. Okay. Shama Samant was one who who brought the Seattle caste resolution. Yes. Are usko to, she wants to be the AOC of Indians, right? Abhijit iyer Mitra has been right in this diagnosis. He's just looking for a stellar political career. के देखा कैसे हिंदुओं का मार दिया, खुद हिंदू होके. I'm a Hindu and still I curse Hindus. I'm so amazing. Okay. The rule to discharge a debt by a surety is stated above, but in the event of the surety who has agreed to guarantee the debtor shall die, and the debtor fails to settle the debt, then the judge may even compel his heirs to discharge the debt. Where it is fully known to the creditor that the surety has not agreed to pay any money to him as it is stated in the contract, then after the latter's death, on what account he shall claim his heirs to settle the debt. Yeah, now they are saying that the ownership always should be with the person who caused the debt, not their sons. If the debtor has handed over the loan money to the surety but has not requested him to pay back the loan to the creditor, in case of the death of the debtor, indeed the surety or his heirs shall pay the debt from their own money. This is the rule. Indeed, a contract made by a person who is intoxicated, insane or grievously ill, mentally disturbed, dependent, or a contract made by an infant or a very aged man, or by someone who is not authorized to act on behalf of the party concerned, is not valid. So now compare this with children transitioning to their trans identities, okay? Manusmriti is saying that, obviously Manusmriti is a fascist document, so the fascist document says that if an infant makes a contract, it's not valid because they are a goddamn infant. But you know, they infants can't vote, can't choose their leaders, can't smoke, can't drink, but they definitely can chop off their breasts and penises. Any contract cannot be legal if it has been made outside, that is, outside the law and the settled usage of land, though it may be proved by any agreement made, that is, the law of the land prevails. Any fraudulent pledge or sale of goods or any gift given or accepted fraudulently shall be declared null and void by the judge where and whenever the fraud shall be seen. If ever the borrower is dead after contracting a loan, and where the money has been expended for the family, that loan must be settled by the relatives out of their own estate, though they may be divided. A deal, that is, a debt which is contracted by a dependent relative for the sake of their family, either in his own country or abroad, the head of the family shall acknowledge and approve the debt. He shall not rescind it. The king or the judge shall equitably decide conformably to these rules the cases of dispute between men with each other which are proved by witnesses and documents. Okay, now the second class of dispute regarding deposits. Yeah, this chapter is going to be huge then. Okay, let me check some comments again. Fascist Smriti, yes, Fascist Smriti and Modality Smriti as well. Okay, play with Pranub is saying, তোমার কি মনে হয় কিছু দিনের মধ্যে আরো প্রো হিন্দু পার্টি এগিয়ে আসবে? যদি হ্যাঁ তো কি জন্য? বিজেপির ভোট কাটার জন্য নাকি সত্যি হিন্দুদের হেল্প করতে? It will be a mixture of both. Some will come because they may be funded by anti-BJP interests, and some will come because they genuinely want to do something for Hindus. That will happen. When there's a vacuum, it will be filled up, and BJP is creating a pro-Hindu vacuum. Okay. Now, second class of dispute, B. A sensible man shall make a deposit only with a person who is born in a good family, who is of a good conduct, well versed in the law, and who is truthful, and has many relatives, and who is a wealthy Arya. The man who deposits any money in whatever manner in the hands of another person, in the same manner, the money shall be returned to him on demand, because as just like an object is given, so shall it be returned. अच्छा, तो liquidity का problem नहीं होना चाहिए. He who does not restore the deposit to the depositor at his request, the judge shall question him. That is, he shall be tried even in the absence of the depositor if a case is entered in court. Kind of what happened with in that Silicon Valley Bank. In the absence of witnesses to give evidence in respect of the deposit, the judge shall deposit gold with the defendant through spies of suitable age and physical appearance, and under some pretext that shall look real, and then afterwards demand it back. If the defendant restores back the gold or the money in the same form and condition in which it was deposited and laid down in the contract, then it shall be assumed that there is nothing true in the allegations for which he is being accused by the others. And if the defendant does not restore the gold, that is, deposit to the spies as it should be, then the judge shall condemn him and recover both the deposits. Thus is the rule of dharma, that is the law. A sealed or an open article deposited shall never be returned to a near relative of the person who made the deposit. If the depositor dies, that deposit is lost, and it is not lost as long as he is living. But if a holder of a deposit who of his own accord ever returns the deposit to a near relative after the death of depositor, then the holder shall not be harassed either by the king or by any other relatives. If ever there is a doubt that the holder of a deposit has not returned the total amount of the deposit, then the near relative shall indeed try to obtain the balance by friendly means and without sacrifice and without artifice, taking into consideration the conduct of the person. Kaisa behavior hai. He shall certainly settle the matter having recourse to gentle means. The above rules hold good for realizing the open deposits from the deposit holders, and regarding the sealed deposits, if the seal is not broken, that is, the holder has not taken anything from it, then he shall not be indictable. If the holder has not taken anything from the sealed deposit, but the deposit has been stolen by the thieves, or if it has been washed away by water or burned by fire, then indeed the holder, being not guilty, shall not return, that is, make good any loss incurred. अच्छा अगर बह गया, जल गया तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते. He who does not return a deposit made, or he who has not made any deposit but makes a demand, both of them shall be considered to be like thieves and subject to punishment. They shall be condemned to pay a fine equal to the amount of the deposit retained or claimed. You see that repetition, that motif again, that false allegation वालों को actual allegation prove होने वाले criminals के तरह ही punishment मिलेगा. Whoever shall rob by false pretext the property of another person, that man together with his accomplices, the king shall bring to light, that is, expose to the public, and they shall be chastised by the various modes of corporal punishments. Any deposit made by whoever and in whatever measure or quantity in the presence of witnesses shall indeed be described precisely of the same measure or quantity as it was, and anyone who shall make a false statement shall be worthy of punishment. Again, any deposit made or received in a secret manner by whosoever shall be returned privately, because as it was given so shall it be received. जैसे दिया था वैसे ही लौटाना होगा, in the same way, in whatever form it was, and in the same procedure that it was received. Tattvabodhaka is here. Namaste Anna, namaste. Play with Pranub is saying Anand Ranganathan ke kiroko mona hai. Yeah, he's great. Sham is not credible anymore. He is just more loyal towards BJP than Hinduism. Shamsharma show should make a video on Jesai Deepak. Yeah, they don't like Jesai Deepak that much. Okay, Ron is saying, Dada, can you post a poll about who is the best Indic-wing intellectual for Indic-wingers in community post? We'll have a poll about this. In case of disputes regarding deposits or friendly loans, the king shall not decide rigorously so that the holder of the deposit or the creditor may be oppressed. If anybody who sells the property of another person for which he is not the owner, or sells it without the consent of the rightful owner, the king shall not admit the testimony of that thief, though he may not consider himself as a thief. If the man found guilty of selling the property of another person is from the family of the rightful owner, that is, he is his kin, he shall be fined 600 pund, the currency of those days. But if he is not from his family and has used force to claim ownership, he shall be indeed held guilty of theft and therefore punishable accordingly. Any gift or sale made by someone else who is not the lawful owner, according to the judicial proceedings, certainly know that transaction to be as if not done. That is null and void. Okay. Any gift or sale made by someone else who is not the lawful owner, according to the judicial proceedings, shall know it to be considered null and void. In cases where the possession and use of a property is evident, but the title is not seen, there the title is the evidence of ownership, not the possession. Thus is indeed the legal rule. He who sells any good in the presence of witnesses and is to acquire money, he shall prove that the good was purchased legally before he can sell it, and then receive the money legally. This is pretty dense. If at a public sale a man buys a good and the origin of the good is not known, that is, from where it was acquired by the rightful owner, the buyer shall not be subject to punishment by the king for the said purchase. However, if the rightful owner who lost it after the sale shall get back his property if he appears. No commodity is worthy for sale where the genuine one is replaced by an imitation, fake one, or if the real substance is mixed with something else looking similar, or which is less in quantity or measure, and or one which is bad, that is, not of good quality, and any commodity which is lying far away, that is, which is not at hand or is concealed, is not suitable for sale. Interesting. Okay, now we start the fourth class of dispute, business partnership. Let me have a sip of green tea. David Pranav is asking why Shamsharma and AKTK don't like JSD. I don't know if AKTK don't like JSD. I think AKTK, I don't know if they have made any comment on JSD or not. Because they should like JSD. JSD is closest to AKTK only. But Shamsharma and all, they are, because they get, Shamsharma does not read all that much, right? He's more of a learner. But in their group, Abhijit, Iyer, Mitra and Kushal, Mehra are the conversation and discourse setters. And they don't like J. Sai Deepak all that much, which is why I think Shamsharma a lot of time ends up babbling after them that decoloniality is not the right way. But all three of them have decolonial ways of thinking, and before even reading J. Sai Deepak, which is why they don't understand the value of the concept called decoloniality. Decoloniality only works for people who are colonized in their minds, right? Because like Kantara is the most decolonial movie of all time. Did Rishabh Shetty end up reading decoloniality or India, that is Bharat? जिनका decolonial mind है, उनके लिए decoloniality का तत्व काम नहीं करेगा, जरूरत भी नहीं है. Agar, and that's why Sham Sharma, Kushal Mehra, they don't understand the value of decoloniality, and then therefore they end up thinking that J. Sai Deepak is presenting some evil, corrupted version of Indic thoughts or doing postmodernism in the garb of Indic wing nonsense, etc. Or that he's bringing in Marxism in the Hindu fold. They misconstrue things like that, but they have decolonial minds anyway. Okay. Binay Singh is saying, like for Waqf Act, even pro-national Muslim opinion is that why Muslim are poor. Okay, Binay Singh is saying, Amna Khalid and their podcast run on Hindu viewership. Still they don't say anything pro-Hindu or that concern Muslim interest. Okay, I don't watch them all that much, but since they have at least brought on J. Sai Deepak and all, they are a significant voice. उससे ज़्यादा तो you can't ask for more than that, because their standard is so low, no? अगर कोई हमारा मिडिल ईस्टर्न भाई अगर इंडिया का फ्लैग दिखा दिया प्रोसेशन में, तभी बड़ा बात है. 2014 के पहले तो वो भी नहीं होता था. So that's the standard set, and they are changing the trends, so you have to be happy with that only. Okay, fourth class of dispute, business partnership. Regarding joint ventures, the share of revenue is to be allotted according to the capital invested by the partners. That is, half of the revenue shall be allotted to the main contributors, half of that to those who are second in number, 1/3 to them who are third class contributors, third party, and the fourth part is to be allotted to those who are at the fourth level. Here in this world where several men jointly undertake joint ventures and do their work, the allotment of shares shall be made by the application of the above principles, and these things show how advanced our civilization has always been. Right? These things, guilds, etc., joint business partnerships, these were realized by European countries after about 1200, 1300 AD. Okay, now fifth class of dispute, breach of contract. Contract ka hai tora. He who has given money to someone who asked for it to be used for the purpose of dharma, that is, for a noble cause, and if afterwards the money has not been used for the purpose it was stated, the money should not have been given to him. That is, it should be taken back. Which means, if we were following Manusmriti as our constitution, we could have asked for all the money used up by temples to build roads and schools and flyovers. Yeah, that's why I don't watch them. Yeah, they are good to have a nice Muslim voice if they can change some Muslim voice and at least get the words and thoughts of Kushal, Mehra, Desai, Deepak in the heads of those people. Then they are doing a good job. But the standard is different, no? However, if the recipient shall use the money in any other way, and when asked to return it, that is, when the money is given for dharma and then they don't use it for dharma, in that situation, he shall not do so through pride or greed. Then the king shall condemn him for his theft, and to compensate the misdeed, he shall be fined to pay 1 suvarna and return the money to the donor. Now sixth class of dispute, the salary quantum. I have said these according to the rules of dharma regarding the no return of money advanced to someone. Now I shall discourse on the dispute of non-payment of wages. Let's see. That servant who is not sick and through pride does not do his work as agreed, he shall be fined 8 Krishnalas and his wage shall not be paid to him. So half of bureaucrats and SBI employees will be out of wages. He who does his work as originally said or agreed when he is in good health, and if eventually he falls ill, he shall certainly be paid his wage even for that long period of illness, okay? Paid medical leaves in the Manusmriti, in the evil fascist Manusmriti. Okay, now breach of work. Okay, let me mark this. PL and PL. Thus, having completely stated the law of payment of wages, now I shall next discourse on the law for those who break a work agreement. The man who is from a village, a district, or a corporation, after having sworn an agreement to work, and then if they break it through greed, that man shall be banished from the state by the king. If you are a service provider and you take the money and you don't provide the service, you will be kicked out of the kingdom. See, always Manusmriti and Arthashastra, very, very beautiful amounts of capitalism with significant checks for bureaucracy, but at the same time some amount of bureaucracy to help run things, because we need laws to prevent ourselves from getting killed at the hands of bad guys. So it's always the best middle path, Manusmriti and Arthashastra. And that man who shall break an agreement, because see, why is this pretty capitalist and not a commie document? Because the commie might have argued that person who is from a village or a district or a corporation, if they swore to do a particular work and then they couldn't do through greed, maybe because their ancestors were oppressed, or maybe they were having a bad day, or maybe we should put ourselves in their shoes and understand how sad they were for having that greed to not provide the service in the first place, and we shall let them go and they can live happily ever after in Soviet Union. But that's not what Manusmriti is saying. Manusmriti is saying, pakro, and that man who shall break an agreement shall be arrested, and he shall be fined to pay 4 suvarnas, 6 nishkas, and 1 shatamana of silver. The righteous king shall apply his law of punishment on those who break the working agreement in villages, classes, and assemblies. Okay, let's check some comments again. Mohak Mangal के अनुसार Hitler is tyrant but Aurangzeb is misunderstood. हाँ, इसको व्हाट्सएप यूनिवर्सिटी बोलो, नहीं तो फैक्ट्स दो इनके सामने. Aurangzeb is misunderstood. I don't know what's his argument. What औरंगजेब ने क्या बाकी रखा था करने को? Okay, return of purchased articles. 8th class of dispute, return of purchased articles. Okay, return policy भी है मनुस्मृति में. And if anybody here in this world, after buying or after selling any article, shall repent his bargain, then he may return or take it back within 10 days. And Amazon का return policy कितने दिन का है? 14 days का है. And ये 10 days का है. Seems pretty relevant. After the expiry of the 10 days, the article purchased. Okay, I have to mark this as return policy even in fascist Manusmriti. अरे क्या क्या बुक जला दिया जेएनयू में, ये उसका इकोनॉमिक्स क्लास में पढ़ा था तो थोड़ा ज्ञान आ जाता हो. रिटर्न पॉलिसी in Manusmriti. This is hilarious. After the expiry of the 10 days, the article purchased and sold shall neither be given back nor taken, and he who gives or takes back the article, the king shall punish him to pay a fine of 600 pound. Here in this world, in whatever transaction already completed, if anybody repents, then according to these rules, the king shall keep him on the path of rectitude. Acha. 9th class of okay. So, if anybody repents, then according to the rules, the king shall keep him on the path of rectitude. तो इसका मीनिंग मुझे देखना होगा. rectitude मतलब क्या है? Rectitude meaning what is right, righteousness. Okay, so in whatever transaction already completed, if anybody repents, then according to these rules, the king shall keep him on the path of rectitude, meaning either you return it within 10 days, and if it's and if 10 days have crossed, just be happy with it. Own up your decision. Okay. मॉक मंगल के अनुसार हिटलर. अच्छा, वीडियो बनाए 1 मिलियन व्यूज है. उन लोगों को वीडियो रिव्यू क्रिटिसिज्म करने से कॉपीराइट आएगा क्या? शायद आएगा, शायद नहीं आएगा. Maybe आएगा if they hate the person who is critiquing them. Owners and keepers of cattle. 9th class of dispute. I shall now duly declare as it should be, and according to the law, the rules concerning the disputes of transgressions between the owners and the keepers of cattle. During the day, the keepers shall be accountable for any injuries to the animals or damage caused by them to others' property. And if at night the animals are sheltered in the house of the owner, then he shall be answerable. Otherwise, the security of the animals shall be on the keepers, if the animals are with them during the day and the night. And that keeper who has agreed to receive as wages the milk, he shall milk the one of the best cow out of a group of 10 with the consent of the owner, and the milk shall be the wages for the keeper. But if while tending the cattle an animal is strayed or is killed by worms or by the dogs, or by falling into a pit, or due to the negligence of duty of the man, that is the keeper, then certainly he shall make good the loss, which is what happens even to these days in the villages. But if an animal is stolen by the thieves, and the theft is committed by force and by noise, that is the beating of drum, then the keeper shall not make good the loss, provided that he informs the owner at the proper place and time. हाँ, उसका तो दोष नहीं है, क्या करे? If ever an animal dies, the keeper shall give to the owner either its ears, skin, hairs, bladders, tendons, the fat, or show any other body parts to convince him of the natural death of the animal, ताकि वो देख के पता चल जाए कि या इसका डिजीज हुआ था कुछ. But if the goats and the sheep are surrounded by the wolves, and the keeper does not hasten to their rescue, then he shall be responsible if the wolf shall kill and carry away by force any animal. Yeah, if you were being careless. But if the keeper properly keeps and guards on them while they are grazing together in the forest, and a wolf darts upon and kills a goat or a sheep, then there, in that case, the keeper shall not be accountable for loss, because it was pretty much beyond his control. A plot of land on all sides of a village of an area of 100 dhanus, which is about 100 arms length, or of the length and breadth of 3 throws of a stick, shall be reserved for pasture, and thrice the area of that pasture land shall be kept for this purpose at the outskirt of a town. There, near that pasture land, if the animals shall destroy the crops in the fields, which is not fenced, in that case, the king shall not punish the keeper, because if you didn't fence your field, it's your fault. Okay. Vinay Singh is saying CA discourse के समय secular बोल रहे थे India is built on secular principle, their history knowledge is घंटा. Okay, India is built on secular principle, but that secular principle does not come from the constitution. It comes from the majority Hindu community. And secular principle का मतलब है कि suicide करे, ये कैसा secularism हुआ? I like to eat a lot of food, so I'll eat poison also. What kind of logic is that? Okay, आप उनका criticism बना के वीडियो करो, views आएगा. हाँ, वो different moods का बात है. Sometimes I'm in the mood of just let's learn as much as I can learn from Indic text. Sometimes I get frustrated and think that क्या बोल रहा है, चलो इसका counter बनाते हैं. Okay, there when the field is not fenced, there the owner of the field shall make a fence so high that a camel could not see beyond it, and he shall cover all apertures through which a dog or a boar could thrust its mouth or head and snip into it. However, if the crops in a fenced field outside, if the crops in a fenced field beside the road or in the neighboring village or town are damaged by the animals being guarded by the keeper, then he shall be guilty, obviously, to be fined 100 pund. But the watchman in the field shall drive away the animals which are not tended. But if the cattle destroy the crops in other fields, that owner or the keeper who was tending the animals shall be liable to pay a fine of 1 pund and a quarter, and in all other cases where the whole field is destroyed, the loss shall be made good to the owner of the field. If the crops are destroyed due to the negligence of the owner, then he shall be punished 10 times of the share of the grain which should have been given to the king as revenue upon that field. But where the destruction is due to the fault of the servants and the owner had no knowledge of it, there the fine shall be half of that. Let's see how much is left. Okay. The righteous king shall settle disputes regarding the owners, the keepers and their animals by the application of these rules. Okay, the rules that we just discussed. Okay. Let me check some comments. Vinay Singh is saying secular word was inserted during Indira Gandhi time. Yeah, so if it was inserted during Indira Gandhi's time, uske pehle kya tha? Hindu Rashtra tha. Aniket Gautam is saying Mohak Mangal and Dhruv Rathi make videos on non-political issues and spread their propaganda through it. Would you see shamsharma or Ekatike doing the same? Yeah. Shabrimala case में play with Pranav is saying Shabrimala case में RSS SC के साथ रहा and JSD against में. ये सब के लिए भी JSD को बहुत कोई लाइक नहीं करता है. मेरा तो फेवरेट है. Yeah. Rohan Shatra is saying we all know how democratically she added secular word in constitution. Okay. If a dispute has arisen, I don't understand how secularism is associated with the idea of CAA. Okay, secularism was added in 1980, 1977 or 73. Okay, secular ho gaya. Even if they are against CAA, no one will argue openly at least that Hindus should be at the threat of any other religion, right? Their argument basically is that Hinduism is not at threat. तो इसमें secularism अच्छा है कि बुरा है, इसका argument कहाँ से आएगा? I am saying that secularism was in India for thousands of years. You are saying it came in 1973 or 47. Whichever is the case, secularism है और रहना चाहिए. That is your argument as well if you are a commie, and my argument as well. We are disagreeing on whether Hinduism is at threat or not, and whether Hinduism is at threat. उसके लिए how can secularism be a crutch or a tool or a dhal? Okay, so why even pay heed to their idea of bringing into secularism? Tell them yes, secularism was invented by your beautiful constitution in 1947. Even then, are Hindus at threat or not? You have to use stats and data and history and a history of riots and genocides for that. Not when secularism was invented. Secularism हुआ 47 में तो क्या हो गया? 47 में secularism हुआ इसलिए हिंदुओं को मर जाना चाहिए. What kind of argument would be that? If they are arguing that. Okay. Now, if the crops are destroyed due to the negligence of the owner, then he shall be punished 10 times of the share of the grain which should have been given to the king as revenue upon that field. But where the destruction is due to the fault of the servants and the owner had no knowledge of it, there the fine shall be half of that. The righteous king shall settle disputes regarding the owners, the keepers and their animals by the application of these rules. Okay, now 10th class of dispute regarding land boundaries. देखते हैं CAA का कुछ solution यहाँ मिलता है कि नहीं, और this land boundaries is just for person to person. If a dispute has arisen concerning the boundary between two villages or two groups of people, then the limit of the boundary shall be decided in the month of Jaishtha, May, June, when the landmarks will be clearly visible, as they are not visible in the rainy season. Nice. Okay, then, and for, wait, iska translation kahan gaya? And for the demarcation of the boundary, the king, the authority, shall undertake to plant the boundary trees like the Nyagrodha, Ashwatha, Kinshuka, Shalmali, Sala, Tala, and even the trees that produce milky juice, and the different kinds of shrubs and bamboos, the creepers, reeds, or thickets. Thus, the boundary does not, so that the boundary does not disappear. So, plant trees to save your boundary, to mark your boundary properly. That's the argument. Yeah, Binay Singh is saying India did not add secular word democratically. Yes, you can spend your time arguing that, but even then, even if she added it by force, no one is arguing that we should be secular, right? Hindu Rashtra is a secular state. So what is their argument by saying that no, CA is against secularism? What are they really arguing? Force them to make that admission, okay? Are they saying Hindus don't have the right to self-defense just because it's a secular country? Does that fall under the definition of secularism? Then they will say, no. We think Hindus should live as any other religion should live. Then the debate will come down to whether Hinduism is at threat or not, instead of secularism kisne laya tha. So force them to make the real argument. They are hiding behind secularism, abaya, because they are saying that secularism is against CA, which I don't see how. Okay. And where the boundaries meet, the king shall cause to be built tanks, wells, ponds, fountains, and places for performing deva pujas and yagyas. In this world, because of the ignorance of the people, disputes about boundaries are constantly seen. Yes, which the king shall have to settle by doing CA or NRC. No, that's not mentioned in Manusmriti. Therefore, hidden boundary points shall also be made. Stones, bones, cow's hair, chaff, ashes, bits of broken pots, dried cow dung, bricks, cinders, pebbles, and sand. ये सबसे boundary set करना है. And whatever other things of the similar kinds which are available, and which the earth shall not corrode even after a long time, the king, the authority, shall use to make concealed boundaries, that is, the materials shall be buried in the soil where the boundaries meet. The king shall decide and settle the dispute between two parties about boundary by these marks, by considering the long-term process and by the constant flow of water, that is, from which direction the streams flow. Even if after inspection of the marks there is any doubt, then the boundary dispute shall be settled by the testimony of the witnesses. The testimony of the witnesses about the boundary marks shall be examined by the king, the authority, in the presence of the respected men of the village, and also in the presence of the two contesting parties. As they are being questioned, their statements shall be recorded, and also shall be kept a record of their names, and the boundaries shall be determined. In the absence of witnesses, respected men from the 4 neighboring villages shall assiduously determine the boundary in the presence of the king. The boundary of the field, the well, the ponds, the orchard, and of the house shall be settled on the evidence of the respected men who know about it, that is, are fully cognizant of that area. If the respected men shall give false statements about the boundary marks, which are the cause of dispute of men, then the king shall punish each one of them to pay fine of mean sahasa, average sahasa. If someone takes through intimidation, if someone takes a house or the pond, orchard, or the field of a person through intimidation, then he shall be punished to pay 500 pun, and if through ignorance they take, by chance, randomly they go and start living in the house for some reason, or they enter the house or the boundary, which is through ignorance, then the punishment shall be 200 pun. If the boundary cannot be ascertained by the marks and the testimony of the witnesses, then the righteous king shall himself decide and allot the land, keeping in mind the benefit of all the parties. That is how you be a just king. This is the settled rule. Now, 11th class of dispute, use of abusive language. Haha, देखते हैं यहाँ पे क्या है. Let me have a sip of tea. Okay, Rohan is saying it means from 1947 to 75 India was Hindu Rashtra. Yes. Okay, Play with Pranam is saying I've sent you some pages of class 6 history textbook, Bengal government book. Okay. Okay, I'll read it if we have time today. As Middle East will become rich, as Brihat is working with. Who is BRHAT? Who are you talking about? Okay. Next we start 11th class of dispute, the use of abusive languages. Thus, after having fully declared the law about disputes regarding boundary, I shall henceforth discourse on deciding cases of use of abusive language. He who makes a false statement about the learning, country, varna, their class, deeds, and also about the bodily features of somebody, he shall be punished, and a fine of 2,000 pounds shall be inflicted upon him. False statement. He who calls a one-eyed man the one-eyed, a lame person the lame, or any other person by the defect of his body, though he speaks the truth, he is liable to be punished to pay a fine of at least 1 karshapana. Look how amazing this is. And this is also followed in every household in Bengal, in any part of the country. Because when we were discussing the Manusmriti a few weeks back, we had come to this conclusion, didn't we? That we unknowingly follow a bunch of customs which come directly from the Manusmriti, but all the time we pretend that we have never read it or we hate the Manusmriti. But that is how much the information of Manusmriti has been disseminated in the society. So in Bengali there's a saying that kana ke kana bolo na, khoda ke khoda bolo na. Don't call a cripple, don't call a blind man a blind man. Even if that is true. Because you're doing that just out of spite to insult the person, and you're not supposed to do that. Punished to pay a fine of at least 1 karshapana. He who calls a person a one-eyed person, one-eyed person. Okay. Now, he who defames his mother, his father, his wife, his brother, his son or children, and his teacher, spiritual master, by the use of abusive language, and he who does not give way to his guru, shall be fined 100 pounds. Now, 12th class of dispute, assault. Okay, let's see some comments. Okay, BRHAT is an independent organization. I see. Is Sangam Talks funded by government? No, I don't think Sangam Talks is funded by government. It might be though. Now that you mentioned it, it seems like that. Fallback identity. What were the abusive words at that time? वैसा कुछ mention नहीं हुआ. We just got 2 or 3 paragraphs about abusive language. And what comes under abusive language is spreading falsehood, defaming someone for no reason. When you are lying to defame someone, and if you insult a person by pointing out their physical handicap, that is under abusive language. Other than that, most of the abusive languages that we know come from Arabian countries only. The languages, most of our abusive languages are either Urdu or in Arabic. So that tells you. Okay. Thus, after having truly declared, okay, now the 12th class of dispute, assault. Thus, after having truly declared the rules for punishment for the use of abusive languages, hereafter I shall discourse on decision regarding assaults and the punishments. If a blow is struck on men or animals with the intention to cause pain, the offender shall be punished in proportion to the amount of pain caused. If a limb or organ is injured or a wound is caused and there is bleeding, the assailant shall be punished to pay all the expenses of the cure, and also he shall be liable to the whole punishment. He who damages the goods or the property of any other person, intentionally or unintentionally, then he shall have to compensate the owner by paying the value of the goods or by replacing them, and he shall also be fined to give to the king the amount equal to the value of the goods. Okay, now 13th class of dispute, theft. Thus, the whole law about the cases of assaults has been completely declared. Now I shall discourse on the rules regarding the decisions about cases of theft and the appropriate punishments to be inflicted. The king who assiduously endeavors to repress and punish the thieves, by their repression his kingdom prospers and his fame grows. This is also what commies disagree with. As you know, in California, stealing anything under $1,000 is not even a punishable offense these days. So Manusmriti is saying that a king who assiduously endeavors to repress and punish the thieves, by their repression his kingdom prospers and his fame grows, which is a pretty obvious thing, but it's fun to know that California is facing the brunt of not following obvious things mentioned even in the Manusmriti, because people are leaving their state because it sucks. Okay. Rohan Shatra is saying, Dada, do make intellectual videos like you used to do in your channel. Also make a counter argument video about Mamta's comment. Yeah, I'll see what she said. They host many events and talks. Yeah, Sangam Talks is pretty academic. Okay. Now The king who always gives protection from the thieves to his subjects, and there is abhaya, freedom from fear in his kingdom. He is indeed worthy of honor, and certainly due to this abhayadana, which is equal to a yajna satram, the highest sacred duty, the reward for it is that his kingdom grows perpetually. Okay, a king where people live without fear. Okay, that's not what fits the description of West Bengal of today. The king who protects his subjects according to the law and punishes those who are guilty of crimes, he is as if daily performing the yajna, of which the reward is 100,000 cows. That is, the king, by administrating the law of the danda justly, reaps the merits of a yajna which yields such a big reward. That king who does not provide protection to his subjects, yet he takes his share of agricultural produce, taxes, duties, presents, and gifts, and also realizes fines, he goes sooner to hell. That is, his reign lasts not for long. The king who does not provide protection to his subjects but takes 1/6 of their agricultural produce is said to be the taker of all the impurities of his subjects and is not worthy of any respect by them. The king who does not abide by the law, who is a nastika, that is, who does not have faith in the Vedas and God, who is rapacious and does provide any protection to his subjects but devours, that is, opposes them, know him to be a mean fellow, and that he does not deserve any respect, such a king. The king shall assiduously repress the wicked, that is, the lawbreakers, by the 3 legal methods, that is, by imprisonment, by putting them in chain, and by the appropriate corporal punishments, unless it's a commie state. Indeed, by repressing and punishing the wicked and protecting and supporting the virtuous, the kings are sanctified, just like the dvijas are sanctified by the performance of yajnas. If after having committed a theft, the thief repents, then running with flying hair, he shall approach the king. दौड़ते हुए आएगा, बाल वाल उड़ रहा है, and confess that theft, shouting in the public that I have committed a theft, and then tell the king that thus I have done, punish me. And he must carry on his shoulder a pestle or a cub made of khadira wood, or a sharp spear on both sides, or even an iron rod. Whether the culprit is punished or pardoned by the king after his confession, and if he is exonerated from the guilt of the theft, and he is not punished for that crime, then the king acquires himself the guilt of the theft. Okay, the king is screwed. The sin of feticide, Foeticide, is transferred to him who eats the food of the sinner, and the blame of an unfaithful woman goes to the husband. The sin of a pupil goes to the guru, and the sin of a thief who is not punished is acquired by the king. Feticide. Let's see what's the Sanskrit for feticide. Okay. Brunaha. Who eats the fetus or what? The sin of feticide is transferred to him who eats the food of the sinner. I wonder what feticide is, or brunaha is. Let's Google this. What's feticide? I thought it's abortion. Foetic. Yeah, feticide means abortion only. Misbirth. Okay. खाने का बात कहाँ से आ गया abortion में? I wonder. We will have to read much more commentaries on Manusmriti for these things. Okay, the sin of a pupil goes to the guru, and the sin of a thief who is not punished is acquired by the king, and the sin of the performer of a yajna is transferred to the purohita. क्या problem है? The men who committed crimes and are accordingly punished by the king, and after they have served their term of sentence, they are exonerated, that is, purified from the blame of the guilt, and thereafter they get happiness as the doers of good deeds attain. He who steals the rope or the water pot from the well, or who breaks the water house, shall get the punishment to pay 1 masha of gold, and there he shall restore the damaged property. अच्छा, कुएं से अगर रस्सी वस्सी चोरी कर लिया, बाल्टी चोरी कर लिया तो. He who steals more than 10 kumbhas measure of grain shall be punished by corporeal punishment, and for having stolen a lesser quantity than 10, he shall be punished to pay 11 times as much, and he shall restore the good to him, that is, to the owner. So, corporeal punishment shall be inflicted on the thief who steals goods like gold, silver, etc., which are measured on scales, and who steals more than 100 palas of excellent clothes. And for stealing more than 50 palas and up to 100, the punishment prescribed is to cut off the hands, and if less than 50, the king shall decide to punish the culprit to pay a fine, which shall be 11 times the value of the goods. For stealing men from noble families, and especially women, and also regarding the theft of precious gems, the thief deserves corporeal or even capital punishment. Stealing men or women from noble families. Okay. Related to stomach. Yeah, perhaps that's why. Okay, Binay Singh is saying they host many events and talks. Yes. Dada, Bibek Devroy is not a perfect translator. He do it very fastly. I don't know. He has taken many years to translate the Puranas. It has taken him 5 years, 7 years. So, actually, there are always disputes among Sanskrit scholars about whose is the perfect translation. So, I can't get into that anyway. If someone wants to counter Bibek Devroy, they should have a debate with Bibek Devroy. What can I do? I can only trust Bibek Devroy because he has made so many English translations. And he has a decent lineage behind him. The Bhandarkar Research Institute, etc. The king shall fix the punishment for stealing large animals like the elephants, the cows, the horses, etc., weapons and medicines after taking into consideration the time and the purpose of the theft. The taking away of goods with violence in the presence of the owner, that offence shall be what is called sahasa, robbery with violence, and stealing the goods in the absence of the owner, and carrying them away shall be deemed to be theft. And the thief with whatever limb commits an offence against men, the king shall cause that very limb to be cut off to prevent the recurrence of such offences and to teach others a lesson. The father, the acharya, the friend, the mother, the wife, the son, or the family priest, who shall not remain steadfast in their duty and shall commit an offence, certainly they shall not go unpunished by the king. Where another common man is punished to pay a fine of 1 karshapanam, there, regarding the same offence, the king shall be fined 1000 karshapanam. That is the settled rule of the scriptures. Okay. Where another common man is punished to pay a fine of 1 karshapanam, there, regarding the same offence, the king shall be fined 1000 karshapanam. Thus is the settled rule of scriptures. Okay. Why is that? Let's check out the Sanskrit shloka if we can understand anything. Karshapanam bhaved dandyo yatranya prakrito jana tatra raja bhaved dandya sahasramiti dharana. Yatra means where, anya means and other. Prakrita plus jana is the common man. Okay, prakrita jana, common man. Bhavet, dandya, punished. Karshapanam is 1 karshapanam. Tatra, there, raja. Dandya, okay, another man, meaning so he who has not probably actually done the crime. If someone is probably punished by mistake, and if that is found out, then the king is also supposed to pay a fine of 1000 karshapanam. Okay, and for the offence of theft, the guilt of a shudra shall be 8-fold, but that of a vaishya shall be 16-fold, and that of a kshatriya 32 times. Whereas the Brahmana shall be fined 64 times or 100 times or even twice 64 times, taking into consideration the cognizance of the offender regarding the nature of that offence. Okay, again, something that can be considered to be anti-Brahmin in the Manusmriti, in the fascist Manusmriti text. Okay, the king who represses and punishes the thieves according to these rules acquires fame in this world and after death enjoys perfect felicity. 14th class of dispute. Offences committed with violence. The king who desires the status of Indra, that is the supreme lord of the land, and imperishable, that is not diminishing fame, shall not even for a least moment neglect to punish a man who commits an offence with violence. The man who commits an offence with violence shall be considered the worst offender, than the one who uses abusive language, than the one who is guilty of theft, or even that the one who injures the innocent with a staff. इन सबसे ज़्यादा guilty और दोषी कौन है? The man who commits an offense with violence. Okay. And that is why all Muslim kings, Islamic invaders, fall under this category. But the king who endures and tolerates the perpetrators of violence soon meets his destruction, and he incurs hatred of his subjects. Kind of why Ekam Sanatan Bharat party had to be made. Neither for the sake of friendship nor because of large lucrative gain, the king shall let the perpetrators of violence who bring fears, that is, are the cause of terror to all creatures, go unpunished. Okay? This is called appeasement. Appeasement is specifically mentioned and asked not to be done in the Manusmriti. Yeah, Brahmin 64 times. Okay. Yeah, so you see, appeasement is banned in Manusmriti. Not for the sake of friendship, nor because of a large lucrative gain. The king shall not let the perpetrators of violence who bring fears, that is, are the cause of terror to all creatures, go unpunished. If ever either the guru, a child, an aged man, or a brahmana, or anyone well versed in the scriptures is approaching as an assassin, he shall certainly be killed without hesitation. Okay? Self-defense in Manusmriti. Let me mark this. Self-defense. If ever either the guru, a child, an aged man, or a brahmana, or anyone well versed in the scriptures is approaching as an assassin. So, even if the person is a brahmana or is well versed in scriptures, he shall certainly be killed without hesitation. By killing an assassin, whoever shall be the killer shall not incur guilt. Either he killed him in the public or in the secret, because in such a case, that killing is like anger recoils upon anger. Okay? What did we just learn? This was fascinating. Okay, now 15th class of dispute. Adultery and incest. The men who commit adultery with the wives of others, the king shall inflict such punishments which leave marks on their person, on their body, and then banish them. A man formerly accused of adultery, if found conversing secretly with the wives of others with the aim for incest, shall be punished to pay a fine of first sahasa, that is 100 panas. But he who is not formerly accused of adultery speaks to the wives of others for some reasonable causes, he does not incur any guilt, for certainly there is no transgression in him. Yeah, obviously. Offering of presents like flowers, scents, etc., cutting jokes, touching her ornaments and dress, and also sitting, sleeping together on the same bed. All these are considered adulterous acts, that is, samgrahanam. Adultery by mutual consent is also adultery and punishable. Strict. Whoever touches the private parts of a woman and she allows it, or if a man allows a woman to touch his private parts, all these acts are declared to be adulterous. Both are guilty of adultery. The king in whose realm there is neither any thief, nor any one who commits adultery, nor any user of abusive language, nor any who commits violence, nor anyone who commits assaults, that king gets the glory and the status of Indra, that is, he is majestic. The suppression of these 5 types of offenders by the king in his kingdom grants him sovereignty among his peers. Yes, because it is doing a good job. So automatically people respect him, and high fame in this world. That Yajman who renounces the Ritvij capable of doing his work, Yajman is a judge. That Yajman who renounces the Ritvij capable of doing his work and who is competent in performing the yagyas, and who is not degraded because of any condemnable act, such a Ritvij, and if a Ritvij renounces a Yajman who is capable and is equally not degraded, each of them shall be fined 100 panas. That you are supposed to cooperate, the Yajman and the Ritvij. Neither a mother, nor a father, nor a wife, nor a son are worthy to be deserted. He who deserts them, though they are not degraded, he shall be fined 600 pan by the king. Abandonment is banned. Okay. The king shall take 1/20th part of the profit on the goods and commodities, the price of which are fixed at the toll department by those who are expert in estimating the value of the goods according to their market value. The king shall confiscate all the property of the trader who, out of greed, smuggles the belongings of the king and exports those goods which are forbidden to be sold to other countries. The trader who deals away from the toll department, that is, avoids the trading system of the state, and the buying and selling of goods at the wrong time, for example at night or by any other routes, and he who makes false statements about the numbers, parallel economy jo chala raha hai, units or measures shall be punished to pay a fine equivalent to 8 times the value of the duties he tried to evade. जो कि वो legally दे सकता था, उसका 8 times he will have to end up paying as punishment. The king shall determine and fix the buying and selling prices of the goods, taking into consideration from where they are brought and to which location they are conveyed, that is, the travelling expenses, the cost of storage, and the profit margin according to the market value of the goods. Once in 5 nights or at the close of a fortnight, and in the presence of the traders, the king shall determine and fix the price of the goods. All the scales, weights, and measures shall be duly marked, and the king shall examine them again once in every 6 months. The freight for FREIGHT, the freight for taking a vehicle across a stretch of water shall be 1 pund, and to transport a load of goods which a man can carry is half a pund. To carry an animal or a woman is 1/4 of a pund, and the freight for a man without any load is half of 1/4, that is 1/8 of a pund. To ferry vehicles full of goods, the rate of toll shall be determined according to the weight and value of the goods, and to carry empty vessels and poor people, the rate shall be a little. For long journey by the boat, the fare shall be appropriate to the places and the times of travel. Know that this rule refers to only to travel by boat at the banks of rivers, and it is not the rule for sea voyage. Okay. This is for nearby coastal regions or for inland waters. Yes, killing in self-defense was not punishable, unlike these days. Yeah. Okay. Last page. This was a huge chapter, huh? Whatever articles shall be damaged in the boat due to the fault of the boatmen, that shall be made good by them, by the boatmen, by them collectively, and from their share of the freight, which was the payment for taking them across the river. Thus, the rules about the ferry of men, beasts, and goods have been declared to settle the suits. The boatmen shall be held responsible for damage of goods on water where it is the result of their faults, but they shall not be accountable for any damage due to accidents caused by natural calamities. Seems very fair. Iti Rajadharmatmakoshtamo, the end of chapter 8 on the subject of Rajadharma. And next chapter we will start tomorrow or day after tomorrow is chapter 9, Navamodhyaya, duties of husband and wife. That will be fun and controversial, I think. That is also a pretty big chapter. Wow, these end chapters are pretty huge. Okay, that will be interesting to learn. Okay, thanks for joining the live stream, guys. We call it a day here. Good night. Thanks for joining in the middle of the night. See you soon.